Outlaw Law is brought to you by Whitaker and Hamer, attorneys and counselors at law. Your law firm for life.
Welcome back into the Outlaw Lawyers. Your hosts, the managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Offices popping up all over the place. Raleigh, Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, Gastonia, and Morehead City. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. And each and every week, it's always legal topics. And this week, we're getting into listener questions. It's going to be business related. So excited about that. We are out of the gates. We're off and running. Josh, where are we going first?
We're going to actually talk about the law and do a listener question. But before we do that, I remember the name of the store. I tried to Google it. It didn't come up. And then it came to me. It's Peace Goods.
Peace Goods.
That was the name of the
That's
store.
all they had was sewing stuff?
Sewing stuff. And fabric. Reams of fabric.
And it was just, and your mom would make you go there?
Yeah. And then, yeah.
Scarred for life. Scarred for life.
It's terrible. I Googled it. And then it didn't come up. I Googled something real specific thing, and I get lucky. I Googled that sewing store that was beside Kmart in Raleigh.
I feel like if I took one of my kids there, man, they'd like bite me or something.
But, the website I hate more than any other website. I hate Yelp. But Yelp
it's terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yelp came up, and it's the best 10 fabric stores in Raleigh.
And that's one of them?
No. I just think that's a terrible list. Like if I was a kid, it's like a horror movie.
There's a lady sitting in her rocking chair at home right now, and that's like... that lady's I'm
just talking about from like a kid's
her
perspective.
Heart's pumping, man, hearing that list.
If I was like 10-year-old Josh and I came through and we didn't have the internet back then.
Yeah, it'd be miserable, man.
Yeah,
you didn't have the internet. You couldn't look at a phone or a device. You'd have to sit through and suffer through the sewing goods.
But if
what was your mom sewing back in the day, man?
I don't know, man.
She wasn't even gonna make you like a hat or anything cool?
I don't know.
A toboggan?
Stuff, man. Stuff. All right, listener question. The first listener question I have kind of revolves around taxes. And so you should know that me and Joseph, while we're attorneys, we are not CPAs. We're not licensed to give any kind of tax advice. That's not what we do. But in our role, when we're talking to somebody about business law, how you're going to be taxed comes up. So general taxation topics will come up, even though we're not talking to you about deductions or what you're going to owe or what you have to file. We do have to talk about tax structure, and so Joe, this came to my mind. There's a case that's being heard before the U.S. Supreme Court, and I'll have to pull up the name, but it's basically talking about taxing unrealized gains of U.S. corporations that are holding the money overseas, and so that's the basis of the lawsuit, which is not.
I feel like I just walked into the sewing store, man.
So I'm not going into details. The case is very interesting because it talks about how corporations get taxed. But what I want to talk about is when you form, right? So when you decide you want to form a corporation or an LLC, it's usually because you're starting a business, right? You have something that you're getting started. I always tell people, creating an LLC, creating a corporation is like creating a person, right? You're creating a thing. You're bringing a thing into an existence that's going to have a purpose, a stated purpose. It's going to have a goal. It can have money. It can have assets. And so I always treat these like a fully separate person that you're creating to undertake this business, opportunity or business venture. But one of the things we have to talk about, Joe, is how are you going to be taxed?
Yeah. I can tell you two things about taxes, man. Okay. We don't make a lot of definitive statements, but I'll tell you two things, man. One, I hate them. I understand them, but I don't like paying them. And two, I don't think that there should be any taxation without representation. I can say that. I can say that with full confidence.
So when you're going to organize an entity, you have to decide how you want to be taxed. And most people, small to medium-sized businesses, I would say, and Joe, this might be what you see too, they elect to be taxed. It's called flow-through taxation, right? So your business comes out, does really good, makes $1 million. You gross $1 million. You got $500,000 in expenses. You got payroll. You got rent. You got all kinds of expenses. So you got $500,000 in expenses. So then you got $500,000 net gain. And so Josh and Joe LLC,
a great company,
is not going to pay any taxes at the corporate level, at the entity level, at the company level, even though the company has netted $500,000 that gets split between me and Joe, right? So I get $250 that I have to pay taxes on my personal tax return, and Joe does the same. So we pay taxes on it, but you don't pay taxes on it at the corporate level. Now you can elect to do that, which sounds kind of crazy in this current example, but there are reasons as you become larger and larger where you might want to be taxed at the corporate level. But I bring this up because I had someone talking to me the other day, and they were mad. Somebody didn't pay. I don't know if it was Amazon or Apple, but they were mad. Like, this company, this corporation made billions. They didn't pay any taxes. And I was like, well, they're not supposed to, right? That's how they're set up. So if you ever hear somebody on the media, and this is kind of the Supreme Court case that I mentioned is kind of bringing this back up. I hear folks in the media talk about it and report on it who aren't very knowledgeable, and they bring that point up again. So-and-so made $30 billion and they didn't pay anything in tax. Well, they're not. That's how the tax code works. That's how
be mad at the tax code, man. Right?
It's designed that way. Somebody's paying taxes.
Somebody's getting taxed. Exactly.
Right.
That's the point I was going to make. Somebody is paying the tax. It just may not be the entity, or it may be, like you said, you've got the pass through. You've got partnerships, sole proprietorships, an S corp, a LLC. Generally, those are all going to be passed through, like you said. But somebody, be it the ultimate owner who's taking the profit or the company itself, somebody's paying that tax.
Yeah, and I feel like when people say these things, they say it to get people fired up.
Yeah,
or they don't understand. But yeah, shareholders, that income's going back as a dividend to shareholders, or an LLC. The owners are called members. So in Josh and Joe LLC, me and Joe would be the two owners, the two members. And we're going to be paying taxes on anything that was a profit. And we'll try to deduct whatever business expenses are legal to deduct. You take advantage of anything in the tax code that you can do. But in the end of the day, whatever your net is, whatever your profit is, somebody's paying taxes on it. But by design, a lot of times it's not the entity. And that blows people's minds sometimes if you're not a lawyer, or you're not dealing with business formation, or you don't have to deal with it in your day-to-day life.
It does get the people fired up, man. There's people out there getting fired up. I kind of like that though, man. I like people getting fired up. It's something entertaining about it.
But I see that a lot. That's one thing. If you see someone talking about it, there's always questions you should ask, or at least things that you think about. It's I don't know. It's just something that bothers me.
Yeah.
It grinds my gears.
Yeah, taxes grind my gears, man. Again, I get it. I pay my taxes. You made that point. I promise we pay our tax. You're paying taxes, but it hurts, man.
Joseph, you grew up in Clayton. You're from Clayton. You grew up in Clayton.
Yes.
Did y'all ever have a Kmart?
Nah, not in Clayton. No, we never had a Kmart. It was a long time before we got a Walmart. We had I tell you what we did have. We had a Video Express. Bet you didn't have one of those.
Nah.
See my T-shirt? This is a Video Express T-shirt, actually.
Oh, where'd you get that from?
I don't know, some guy. But shout out to Dan Barber. Barbershop Creative Services. They made these shirts. They made a bunch of vintage business shirts.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
He's a good dude, man. This is a really cool shirt. So
yeah. I'm looking at it. I thought it was a Miami Vice.
I doubt he's listening, but if he is,
I thought it was a Miami Vice shirt.
No, man, it's Video Express. So Video Express had this dude Gary. Shout out to Gary. My mom ran a daycare and owned it. It was right beside Video Express. I had to walk over there, get to rent videos. Got to watch a lot of videos, man. Whole lot of videos, man. That was my childhood, watching a lot of movies.
So I never said what the question was. The question that we answered was, I want to start a business entity. I'm confused about taxes. Should I elect to have flow through taxes? And so that's where the question. I'm not on my A game today.
No, it depends. That's the answer.
Yeah,
right?
The answer is it depends.
We're not CPAs. You said that as well, right? You did tell the people.
I told them not to ask us for tax advice, but you should be working with a CPA, and we work a lot with CPAs when we're doing business formation, when we're doing estate planning. We talked about trust a lot a week or two ago, and anytime we're doing any of that, we're usually, if you've got a CPA, you got a tax person that you work with, we work with them. But anyway, taxes, you can pay them two different ways when you have an entity formed.
Yeah, I think you're on your A game, man. I think you're killing it. The person who asked this question is probably sitting at home listening to this and like, my God.
I got it.
I never thought that question would be answered in such a thorough way. And I'm going to take my tax savings and I'm going to, what's the name? Peace Goods.
Buy some fabric.
And I'm going to sew clothing for the homeless.
Good stuff. The Outlaw Lawyers, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer. They are your hosts of this show, the managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, the power behind this program. They're practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Offices located right here in Raleigh, also in Garner, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, Gastonia, and Morehead City. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. We're going to take a short break. When we come back on the other side, we have more listener questions. You're listening to the Outlaw Lawyers.